Okay, thank you, everyone. When Chris invited us and said there might be this opportunity, which we were really keen about, there were a lot of things we could have talked about, including the autonomous vehicles, because back at the uni we do quite a bit of work on that. Instead, I sort of focused on something else, which is quite priority for quite a few car companies at the moment. We're working on a specific project we're very excited about called the Automotive Habitat Laboratory. So I thought I would talk about this. It's a major project sponsored by Jaguar Land Rover, and it sort of indicates how UX and other design professionals are going and moving forward to go grab the requirements and the requests of the public. Before I move into the automobile, though, I think it's very important to define what we exactly mean at our uni by human-centered design. So I pulled out a couple of examples. They're not automobiles, I apologize for it, but I promise only 3-4 slides. And what we want to get across is what we really like to do, and what it is that the more complicated project I might talk about afterwards is actually trying to do. So if we take a look at somebody like Alessi, 1980s, metal-bashing, Po Valley, northern Italian company, brilliant functional products, amazing stainless steels, lovely products, they're starting to go bankrupt. Like much of Europe, North America, Japan, the industrialized countries start to suffer the competition coming from the East, and things are showing up on the market which are just as good as a material and just as functional, just as good for the user to do something, to use it to achieve some task, and they're losing their business, and factories are shutting all over the Po Valley in northern Italy. Alessi, what do they do? Just as we do in our work, we bring in people, designers, we bring in people from the public, we bring in the fans of that company, the local shop owner, the old lady who lives at the corner of the street where the factory is located, and so forth. And we have that conversation about what else can we do with it, where is this going, what can we add? And designers start to add a whistle that makes the sound of a very well-known European bird. So when you're making your tea, the thing whistles and it's lovely. Somebody else comes along, Philip Stark or whatever, and makes the thing into a 1950s spaceship. And then finally, true genius, someone puts a smiley face on a corkscrew making Anna G. And as designers, everyone in the room knows very well, smiley things, automobiles have lights and grills and they smile, buildings smile, everything around us smiles, and we do it intentionally because we know that if you make something smile, the people who have to interact with it start to smile, and they like it, it makes them happy. We've always known that, but now the doctors and the neuroscientists have come out and said why. In the last 5 years, they invented the discussion of mirror neurons. We know that if I smile to you and you want to stop smiling, you have to hold yourself back because there's neurons in the brain that copy what the other people around you are doing because it's part of survival. If we have to live together as people, when I'm happy, you need to be happy. When I'm sad, you need to understand it and be sad too, to talk to me and so forth. If I put a smiley face up there, you will tend to smile without realizing it. And we also know that happy people are also healthy people. Your skin grows 2 millimeters a day faster if you're happy than if you're really sad. We know that. It's all been done proper studies. So the mirror neurons are the key. And as designers, we've been doing this for generations, but now we know why. We know why it works. So somebody like Alessi, gamification. Make it into a game. While the people are waiting to do their pasta for 10 minutes that it cooks, we got some sort of an icebreaker. It becomes a game. We have fun, we smile, and we have added value. And the company is safe and saved. Amazon, great user interface, excellent UX, slick as slick can be. Prices fairly reasonable, possibly because they don't pay their taxes. That's a separate issue. But Amazon is something deeper. The first time you go over there and the thing says, people who are looking for this also wanted, I don't know, the salsa music CD, and you think, but I never bought music on this thingy, and how the hell did it know that I like Latin American percussion? The first time this thing makes a suggestion that your mom didn't do, your best mates never gave you one of those, the people you work with would never have thought of it. The first time that little expert system or that neural network, it's a very simple software, the first time it uses the statistics and makes you a really good suggestion, you've got a mate. This is a social interaction. You now start to think of this. We always tend to personify computer softwares and artifacts anyway. We know from sociology and psychology as humans, we always personify things. The ship, she is sailing out of port. We anthropomorphize and personify. Amazon is no different, and they're running with it, and they're making something that you're curious to figure out what it's going to say next. So you end up going back even when you don't have an urgent purchase. And then finally, I'd probably get fired from my job if I didn't put up some picture of something from Apple, because nobody can be a designer in any city in the world without putting up something of Apple. Okay, we all know in the room that the aesthetics are lovely, the product semantics are brilliant, we know that the functionality is very simple and straightforward, intuitive, and we know that the combination of product plus service was extremely clever, very timely, and it's a genius idea. But there's more to it than that. And at Human Centered Design Institute at our uni, one of the things that we look at in these kinds of products or services is the question of what's driving the wow factor? What's behind that reaction that people get? Well, imagine that you are using a clunky MP3 player or a Walkman or something, and one day you can push the button once to download something, twice to save in memory, 3 times you got it playing. Well, something you can do 1, 2, 3, and the music starts to play in the room, that's Harry Potter. That's not UX. That's not design. That's not even great design. That's Harry Potter. That's about a deep understanding, a deep requirement that we've had for millions of years, which we've always dreamt of spirits and forces and magic and ghosts and all kinds of things. Whether they intentionally realize it or not, they've achieved something which transcends the physical struggle to do stuff and makes it so simple that it's now magic. And you can just make it play with 3 clicks of your fingers. We've been referring to this as Harry Potter design for a good 10 years. There's a few press articles in the last 2-3 years where you'll see they've picked that up. And there are some people in the States talking about Harry Potter design at the moment. So that's the kind of thing that inspires us. So what's all that about? It's about something like this. I used to work, for example, in Fiat, at Centro Ricerche Fiat in Turin in the 90s. And when we were designing a car, at that time, we would have talked about the size of the car, the volume of the boot, how high you have to lift your thing to put it in. It was going to be ergonomics, cognitive psychology, interaction design. That's what we were doing at the time. That stuff now is the absolute minimum today. Those are the boxes you got to tick. You have to start from there. If you don't do that, you can't even launch the product. But what the people really want is the kind of stuff my colleague from Bentley will be talking about later, which is the magic, the metaphysics, the fact of touching. If I go and take you to my colleagues, I don't know where he went now, Rodri, but if we take you to Bentley, there you go, Rodri. Over at Bentley, I met a couple of your colleagues a few years ago. There were 2 chaps working for 2 years to design the ashtray of your Bentley because it had to have a material that felt exactly the right temperature, not too cold, not too hot. The material had to have the right surface roughness. It had to make the perfect sound that sounded like quality experience. Those 2 chaps spent 2 years to do an ashtray. And that's the same thing at every car company, whether it's Fiat, Volkswagen, Renault, General Motors, Ford, Bentley, whatever. Everyone to some degree is doing that, and people like yourselves are doing it much better and much more brilliantly than others, but everyone has to do some of it, which is you got to move from the physics to the metaphysics. The physics meaning the thing works, it's fast, it's logical, it's quick, it's efficient, it does its task. That's the minimum. That's what all your competitors are doing. You make it feel so special that touching it, hearing it, looking at it, you actually want to get up at 3 in the morning, go to work and do it. That's the metaphysics, and that's where, for example, the car industry is today. That's where all the money is being spent. It's not about engines and combustion. We do that, but that's not where the big bucks are. So finally, human-centered design. What do we mean by human-centered design? All those techniques which work with people, poke them, prod them, check them, talk to them, watch them, use technologies, do the data analytics, whatever, to try to figure out what people really, really, really want and why they want it. And quite often, if we do the work properly, with several different methods, put all the information together, make a good picture of it, summarize it with a scenario or a persona that works, we will have come to a conclusion that the chap themselves could not express. The best human-centered design, as we see it, is digging out of people the stuff that they really, really want and why they really want it, even when they can't answer the question on the questionnaire or they can't give you a straight answer in the interview as to why. But if you dig deep enough, if you watch them and if you measure their emotional responses and look and put all this picture together, sometimes you can get that out of the person. So what are the kinds of tools we do? The same sort of thing most of you folks are doing as well. We've got, in 2016, an amazing set of informations from psychology and philosophy and perception and biomechanics. We're very, very lucky. Most of this room, the people are quite young. If you were around 20, 30 years ago, you would have seen that a lot of the stuff that you guys are using every day today wasn't actually defined properly 20, 30 years ago. They hadn't actually done the tests. We're really lucky. We got all this information, reaction times, cognitive models, response times, complexity models, whatever. Okay, if we go down to Silicon Roundabout, if we go to Soho, if we come around these parts, anywhere we go around London, everyone is using stuff like this. Tasks analysis, the 5 whys of design, persona, scenarios, extreme users. But not as much, but some teams, including us, are also using a lot of technologies. Cameras. You know, if you place a camera in Selfridges and you look how hot a person is, when they see something they like and they're about to buy it, they get hotter and you can see it on the camera. Well, Selfridges is doing that kind of testing. On Oxford Street and Regent Street, there were some mannequins in the windows that had facial coding analysis. They had cameras which were looking with eye tracking what you're looking at. So they dressed the mannequin up with a jacket and some trousers and some trainers, and they take a look at where you, through the window, are looking at it, and they see how long you're looking at it, whether you're smiling, happy or sad or whatever, boy or girl, age profile, and ethnicity on top of everything else, whether you're Asian, Caucasian, African origin, so forth. And all this information was the high street's way of dealing with data analytics that the competitors like Amazon, the others, could just do it from keystrokes on the internet. And if you got a shop on the high street, you haven't got that information. So you have to build it into your mannequins and your cameras and stuff to pick it up. And they are doing it. Those mannequins are made in in Florence in Italy. Anybody can buy them any day, and shops all over the world are putting them in. This kind of stuff is very much the current thing. And then finally, the future. If you're the government and you're about to deliberate high-speed 2, and you're going to get this thing running, the train's not going to pull out of the station for the next 25 years, you got to ask yourself, 25 years from now, this train, this infrastructure, this sandwich shop, or whatever it is we're putting on the track, how appropriate might it be for people who are dressing, eating, drinking, talking the language, living the life of 25 years from now? And this is a huge problem for all designers, not just UX designers. Because if we have a workshop and we have a bunch of people and we get them in a room and talk to them, everyone's just talking stereotypes. Oh yeah, my dad's car was like that, so I think a car should have a thing like this. Oh yeah, well, Microsoft has this, so I think maybe Google should do something like that. Well, if you want to work with the customers in the future, in a Star Trek science fiction future, you have to develop props and videos and movies. And just like Star Trek, you got to show them the movie so many times that they know that future. And there's plenty of proper research about things like cell phones. When Motorola came out with the first one of these, they didn't have to do any UX or any design work. They just had to miniaturize the thingy, because we had all seen Star Trek for 20 years. We had all seen when Captain Kirk gets killed because the line goes down, or he promised his girlfriend some flowers and he didn't show up on time because the button was malfunctioning, whatever. So we had seen every social setting where a communicator would fail. All Motorola had to do is say, that's what a designer has to achieve. Let's just miniaturize the thing and let's put some buttons on it and let's just do what they want on Star Trek, because we were all living in these science fiction. Hollywood's given us a lot of stuff. So real fictions, parafunctional simulations, experience prototyping, bring people into your place, get them to experience the funky, wacky ideas that we have about the future, but about how people dress, eat, and live. Not just the button and the laser and the technology. No, what the real people are doing. And then let's have the design conversation about what we should be achieved. So what we mean by human-centered design in our team is lots of human factors, just like you guys do, lots of interaction design, interactivity, just like you guys do, a lot of semiotics and discourse, just like you guys do, and to some extent, many of you are doing this as well, understanding the main meanings and metaphors. Most of our work is about eliciting or grabbing from the people the best metaphor, the best meaning to capture what they really, really think that thingy is supposed to do, or what information is supposed to show up on the screen, and it's designing around that. That's the tool. So that's the background about what we do. And of the many projects we've got in automotive, because we have at least 5 or 6 different things underway at the moment, for tonight's talk, we decided to focus on this one, co-design tools. The 21st century, we're talking about personal freedom, democracy, human empowerment. With all the problems that we know about in politics, all the horrible things we're reading in the newspapers, the fact of the matter is the internet, information, and other technologies have made the world a more open and transparent place. Lots of problems, lots of things to fix, but the fact of the matter is we are demanding more. And in the car sector, that means that we're not happy to just have the guy at the car company design what he wants, put it in the showroom, and then we just go and say, take it or leave it. We want to have a say in that. We want the companies to be sensitive. We want them to be interested in our opinions and our interests. So we've got this very large project, couple £1 million with Jaguar Land Rover underway, called Automotive Habitat Lab. And it's very timely because the car has gone from being some mechanical machine, which just goes from here to there, to being something that's a lot more like the kinds of things many of you are doing every day in your work. There's infotainment systems. There's navigation systems. We're talking about micro-exchanges. If the car is measuring stuff about the road or about you, maybe it's going to go sell it to Google. And then Google's going to sell you back the information you need on the map to do your navigation. So we're talking about micro-exchanges. The car is like a marketplace, like Lloyd's of London, Lloyd's Register. We're going to go and move information around. This place is a place where you don't just go from here to there, you live in there. That's been the case for a long time, but never before has it been so obvious as today. Thanks to information platforms, the car is a habitat. It's not that different anymore from the office or the movie theater or the shopping center. Everything is happening in there, as this shows. And Jaguar Land Rover, just like any car company, is very sensitive. A couple years ago, sitting in a meeting with the head of research at Jaguar Land Rover Group, so we had a meeting, we had a discussion. We're sitting there after the meeting having a coffee, and he says to me, Joseph, I don't know if you know it because it's confidential, but just yesterday, we finalized our new corporate strategy. This is the current one that's running. Our new corporate strategy, and this is like a TV commercial, which you can see, it's out there now in the public press. Our new corporate strategy is our mission statement, our strap line, our objective is creating experiences which customers love, comma, for life. And he looked at me across the table and he said, Joseph, we got a serious problem and we need your help and we need help from other people in the sector because we've been making cars. We haven't been making experiences. We've been doing engines, we've been doing batteries, we've been doing gearboxes, tires, handling, aerodynamics, noise levels. We haven't been making experiences. And now we got at the very top of the corporate tree, the mission statement every single JLR employee must respond to on a yearly basis is, we're not making cars, we're making experiences. So how are we going to go about that? We got a serious problem. We don't know how to quantify that. So then kicks into action, let's see what we can do. Okay, we could have done the usual thing, marketing, branding, design, UX, whatever. We could have done lots of questionnaires. We could have trolled the general public. But we all know in this room what are the limitations of these techniques. We also could have done workshops like the ones that were mentioned before, where we get a bunch of people in the room and we have a discussion, but there's problems with that because we're going to come out with stereotypes. How do you do disruptive innovation when everybody in the workshop is probably thinking incremental innovation? Oh yeah, why don't you put one of them in the car because my dad's car had one and they don't do them anymore. I think they'd be really useful. That's the kind of thing that no matter how creative and how hard we work at it, all of us in this room as designers, this tends to creep into the results of the work we do. And then there's lots of funky, more recent stuff that people around town, lots of agencies doing this kind of stuff. People are looking at design fictions. Let's get some stuff from Hollywood where a holographic butler or holographic chauffeur or some sort of technical wizardry or some sort of driving the car, and there's the picture we had before. Something's already been shown to the general public. The general public has reacted. They like or they don't like it. And maybe they even form some opinions. Let's use those design fictions to prod out quickly some feedback about whether something like this is appropriate or that or that or that. Let's check with the people if they might like any of these. Well, that's another thing a lot of people around town are doing these days, including us. We do quite a bit of this. But for this project, we said, no, none of that, because we got a problem. And the problem specific of cars, which might be a little bit different from computers and in IT systems, is we got a problem of long-term memory, and we got a problem of emotion. The first one, if I ask you a question about something that happened to you in your car yesterday when you were driving to the beach, you're going to talk to me about what you remember. And long-term memory, I'm sure many people in the room, I see the faces smiling, a lot of people will be familiar with the fact that long-term memory is a cheat. It's a liar. It's a dangerous thing for designers to rely on. We remember models of what happened. We don't remember the actual data. So if I say the car was loud, I remembered the word loud. I don't remember the exact sound. And if you ask me to compare what this car sounded like today to the one I drove yesterday, my comparison is almost always completely wrong. It's based on stereotypes. It's guessing. Best guessing, it's rationalizing. So long-term memory in workshops, in questionnaires, in many of the interactive techniques seeps into the data, and we get not what they really think or feel, but we get what they think they're thinking or feeling based on what they know about the situation. And then emotion. When the guy from Jaguar Land Rover or Bentley or any other car company says, our products are about creating emotion, when we go back to the showroom 2 hours later after the drive and we talk about the emotion, how good is that model going to be? What if I talk to the guy in real time when the heart is beating and thumping and the guy is sweating because he just jammed on the brakes on the M1 and just avoided a crash? Maybe then the description of the emotion will be straightforward. In computers and portals and lots of situations, you could test that. You could let the guy try it. Unfortunately, with the car, you can't always do that. So there's a question of how will we make it possible to do this actually in a safe way on the road. So the project that we're doing with JLR is something like this. A control room, imagine TfL, Transport for London control room. Imagine the city control room, the police control, some of that. For the moment, a room where the designers are sitting there ready to talk to the people, and a car in which there's some cameras and things picking up what's going on, and we're looking at the data of the car, and the control room people can ring the car and say, I'm the designer from Coventry, from Jaguar Land Rover. I just saw you jammed on the brakes. You look very unhappy. Talk to us. Tell us what's wrong, because we want to get the next version of this car better, and you did not look happy just there. Please, please, please talk. You signed a little agreement. You were happy for us to ring you to make the car better. It's about you. Talk to us. This is a great time to talk about it. So this is what the project's about. In a nutshell, it's as simple as this. Imagine having a workshop, all of you chaps around the table doing your usual work, and imagine just opening up a portal in the car, possibly as shown here on the infotainment system, and we get the designer from Coventry online talking to the chap within a certain number of minutes of the thing happening, and we run a virtual workshop. We could have a workshop with a couple designers and a bloke on the M25 and somebody in Moscow and the other guy in Rome, and we could get everyone together and have a good argument and decide what it is we want to change about the car. As long as we're being careful to be safe and ethical, this is quite doable. Technology makes that possible. And if we have that kind of a scenario, what conversations could we have? Well, from automotive tradition, there's a certain way of thinking about the car which permeates the whole industry. There's some safety stuff we got to do for the law. There's some functional stuff about getting things done, driving, making the car go. Then we've got things about social communication, social interaction, and maybe navigation might even fit into that. And then above all, there's the current target or holy grail of every car company in the world. We don't want to make cars. We want to make things that make you emotional and happy. Getting from A to B is no longer a problem. Whether it drives itself or it doesn't matter. That is not the problem. The problem is it going to make you happy as a user experience? That's the objective. So we know that these are like normal things that we got to worry about, so we would ask about some aspects of this, but there's more to it than that. This project is targeting something very different. If we know that human beings have certain types of emotion, enjoyment, happiness, pride, amusement, irritation, anger, scorn, disgust, and so forth, if we know from psychology something like this, the Geneva Wheel of Emotion, if we know these are all the states or conditions a person can be in, well, don't we have to find out which bits of the car trigger that? And don't we have to find out what driving conditions might lead to that? And don't we have to find out what kind of road might make it easy to check that or not? Right now, we designed the car as a thingy, as an artifact, as a beautiful piece of design, and then we later check, do the people like it? Is it usable? Can we improve it? Can we make it better? Shouldn't we flip this around, do it the other way around? We found that every time you drive on that road, the guy gets really happy. Well, let's use that road as a test. Let's check. And let's make sure the new car works really well on that one. And if you follow that line of reasoning, you can do that quite easily with the technology, as we said, with the mannequins in the windows of the shops. The car of the future will definitely have this, no doubt about it. All the cars will have emotion measurement devices in the dashboard. We'll be able to check these things in real time. And then as designers, there's some really interesting questions. Now, I've only got 3 more slides, so I'll finish up very quickly. Each slide is a research topic which is a big part of the project, which people are working on for months and months, because very complicated questions. One question. If you can talk to the person in the car when something funky is happening and you can really get to them and figure out what's going on, what words would you use? As designers, we speak a very different language from engineers, different from doctors, different from lawyers. Well, do we need to optimize the questions? Which words make you think creatively? Which words bore you? Which words would make it easy for you to think of something really futuristic as opposed to not? There's a lot of things that can help about this in design guidebooks and guidelines. There's a lot of work to be done to say, if you don't ask the sentence in this manner, the answer you're going to get is incremental rather than disruptive. Similar questions, what about the context? We've already done quite a few studies. Put the person in the simulator, drive on one type of road. Put this person in the simulator, drive on a different type of road. Put them in a different type of road. Ask exactly the same design questions. In one case, from 20 subjects, 20 people, we get a certain amount of information. On another road, we get a lot more. Another road, we get a lot more still. So the context or the situation you plop the person in changes everything. Even using a computer, we change the lighting, the things that people say in the room change. We know that. In the car, it's very dramatic because it's a very constrained environment. And then finally, and this is probably the most interesting of all, if you then go and look at the words the people are saying, you realize if the same bloke is driving on a different road, the words that they start talking about and saying, I think you need to improve this bit of it. I think you need to look at that. I think you need to worry about that and get that a bit better. The things they flag are completely different. Same person, same car, but a different context. When I'm sitting there pushing, pulling, turning, looking at the traffic, thinking and seeing this stuff happening, it makes me think different things. So if you ask me the same question, I give a totally different answer. That contextual effect has never been handled properly in the car industry, and it's quite dominant in most design situations. But in the car industry, it's dramatic. Drive on that road, you'll never know certain things are happening. Drive on the other road, you'll never make a mistake getting that component design correct. So the effect of context is another big part of the project. Which questions are creative, and which road conditions or which situations are environmental will get the person to give you some help to understand something of that part of the vehicle. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
maybe we'll have a couple of questions while we're doing the changeover. So any questions? No questions?
No question. Perfectly clear.
So if people don't really remember the experiences properly, why does it really matter in terms of from JLR's perspective or kind of automotive companies? If their memory is the thing that actually is going to kind of affect their sales or other things like that. I know from a kind of designer's perspective and trying to kind of improve the experience, it's not genuinely, but if their memory of it is distorted anyway, how can we? Surely the question is how can we better distort that memory in a more positive way rather than necessarily.
There's a couple ways to look at it. What I was implying was actually that they can't express it properly because the way it's saved in the memory is not accessible anymore. Okay, that does not necessarily mean that when I drive car A and then tomorrow I drive B, I don't conclude that B is better. How many times do we have situations where we know something that we've done is not working with the test group or the customer or the company we're working for, and then we try to say, but what's wrong with it? What the heck is wrong with it? Help me, I can change in a minute. Just tell me what you want. And we can't get that. What I'm alluding to is we can't get to it, but unfortunately for the car companies, for the computer companies, or for internet companies, that's not the same as they can't prefer one over the other. And driving cars is a very tricky problem. You drive the car, you drive the other, you're like, I don't know what changed, but I thought the first one was really good. That is the enemy of all the designers and the engineers in these organizations. And that's what we're trying to target.